Now out in cinemas is Supergirl, starring Millie Alcock as Kara aka Supergirl, and directed by Craig Gillespie, who worked on the remake of Fright Night, I, Tonya and Cruella. The production was given a large budget of $170 million and was filmed at Leavesden Studios in London. Supergirl is no stranger to the big and small screen, first popping up in 1984 with Helen Slater in the lead role. Produced by the Salkinds, who were behind the first 3 Christopher Reeve Superman movies, it flopped on release due to having a bad script, and fans felt the movie went in the wrong direction for the character, but it has become a bit of a cult classic over the past 4 decades. Supergirl would return years later, appearing on the small screen in Smallville, and would have her own successful TV show that aired in 2015, which lasted for 6 seasons. She would eventually return to the big screen in The Flash in 2023, which turned out to be a critical and financial flop, though I do like large chunks of that movie and Supergirl was really good in it. With James Gunn heading up the new DCU, a new take was needed, and Supergirl would pop up in Superman for a little cameo at the end, showcasing a different version of the character who seemed a bit rebellious and a heavy drinker. For her own movie, they would base their script on the comic book series Woman of Tomorrow, which was a big hit with readers in 2021. Since its early press screenings, the reviews have been very mixed, certainly not as positive as Superman from last year. Empire awarded it 3 stars out of 5, saying the film isn't disastrous by any means, just blandly safe. Millie Alcock's hungover hero is delightful, even if the film never truly cuts loose. There are good ingredients here, a witty, hard-partying badass anti-hero, a moving backstory, an odd couple dynamic between Alcock and Corenswet, worth building on, but the fledgling DCU still has yet to prove itself. Total Film awarded it 3.5 stars out of 5, saying, Superman's messier, younger cousin in every way. Supergirl earns its Guardians of the Galaxy and Mad Max comparisons with a surprisingly dark and sometimes downright gross space adventure about revenge and finding your home. Variety were pretty harsh with their critique, saying, Millie Alcock takes charge in a dystopian superhero movie so flat it's super horrendous. Supergirl plods along, poised between sodden spectacle and snark. I was shocked to see that the director Craig Gillespie, who made the arresting I, Tonya and the fabulous Cruella, could churn out a piece of product this generic in its action. For the film's story, we find Supergirl and Krypto on an alien planet that has a red sun, so she can celebrate her 23rd birthday and get completely wasted. A yellow sun gives her her powers, so alcohol has no effect. During one of her pub crawls, she encounters Ruthie, the last survivor of her family who was murdered by the brigand leader Krem of the Yellow Hills. Ruthie wants revenge and will reward anyone with her sword. After Supergirl beats up a thug who steals the sword, she requests help from Kara, but Kara is not in any mood to help her. Ruthie pays her a visit the following morning, and as Kara walks Krypto, Krem and his gang steals Supergirl's spaceship and shoots Krypto with a poisonous dart. Supergirl is now left stranded. Upon learning that Krypto has only 3 days left to live, Supergirl decides to pursue Krem to retrieve the antidote by getting a space bus, which Ruthie manages to get on, and she pesters Kara for help, and she reluctantly agrees. So is Supergirl any good? Well, it's just fine at best. There are a number of issues that stop it from being very good to excellent. Now, I wasn't super excited for the film. I was certainly intrigued by its story because it was based on the graphic novel Woman of Tomorrow, but the teasers and trailers they put out and how they marketed the film didn't really get me hyped. I'm in my early 40s, so the movie's not really trying to appeal to me. With the use of the Blondie music in the marketing and Supergirl's new attitude, it's speaking to a different demographic, which is completely fine. I recently read the book Woman of Tomorrow, which I really enjoyed, and it was interesting to see what they had adapted and what they decided to leave out. Lobo, who Jason Momoa seemed born to play, does have a lot of fun with his performance, but he has no business being in this movie. It's kind of a glorified cameo. Lobo is not in the original comic book series and has been crowbarred into the script, but saying that, I did enjoy his limited time on screen. What the film really failed to do for me was to make me connect with the material. I felt invested with the graphic novel, but the film failed to do the same. Narratively, it's a bit clunky and whips through the development of some of the characters so quickly, it feels a bit choppy in places. The villain Krem is poorly introduced and doesn't have enough screen time for us to see him as a big threat. He feels like a throwaway villain in one of the Marvel sequels, and he follows the origin story trend, where they throw in a C-list or D-list villain from the comics, and it's actually the sequel where they introduce the superhero's main nemesis. Krem is very different to his comic book counterpart, and feels like another villain from Guardians of the Galaxy, especially in how he is designed with the makeup and costume. You have that problem of seeing stuff you've seen before. Millie Alcock as Supergirl does a fine job with her performance, but the punk rock attitude to me runs out of steam. She does take her time to fully embrace who she is, which is a bit of a problem for me. This Supergirl I feel is different to the one in the graphic novel. They both seek out a red planet to make them weaker so they can get drunk to celebrate their birthday, but the comic book version felt more mature in her years, despite being 2 years younger than her movie counterpart. The sort of not giving a shit attitude doesn't quite gel for me. It may do for others, and especially for a younger female audience who may fully embrace this approach to the character, but for me I found myself a little frustrated with her, like Superman. Eve Ridley as Ruthie is very much like her comic book counterpart. She is headstrong, annoying, single-minded with her mission of revenge, and she is polite and stubborn at the same time. Ruthie by the end does feel a bit short-changed, and her friendship with Kara doesn't come across as warm and as affectionate as it does in the comic book series. The production is designed by Neil Lamont, the son of Peter Lamont, who designed many of the 007 films, Aliens and Titanic. Neil worked on the Harry Potter films and designed Rogue One and Solo, so the guy has done some fantastic work. But the world that has been created for Supergirl feels like stuff you've seen before in the Marvel movies. Mentioning Guardians of the Galaxy again, it very much looks like that film. I know the director was inspired by The Fifth Element to flesh out the variety of alien characters, which are fantastic in their design, but the majority of the worlds we visit take on a dark, run-down, greasy look, making the alien towns or cities look unappealing. Krypton, which appears in flashbacks, looks like a generic futuristic city, with little to no imagination with its design. And how does this world fit with the crystal-like fortress in Superman? There is no continuity there with their designs. They feel very much detached with their overall look. The visual effects for the most part are consistent in quality, but there is nothing really new on display or different in terms of execution to make you go wow. It features your standard superhero action set pieces, again seeing someone stand still, and the camera does a 360 as we see the carnage surround them. Boring, stop doing that please, I've seen it all before. The standout piece for me was when the pirates hijack the space bus, and Supergirl flies out and attacks them using her heat vision. It was nicely executed. The third act for the big action sequence is a bit short-lived, and there was clearly some ropey compositing work that appeared incomplete. This is work that FX artists can do in their sleep, but it all boils down to time. Having to meet a release date is a lot of pressure, and unfortunately there are some obvious green screen shots that needed a bit more work to finesse them. The score to Supergirl had issues early into its post-production. Composer Ramin Djawadi was revealed to be composing the score to Supergirl in December 2025, as he had worked with the director on Fright Night, but a couple of months later he was replaced by composer Tom Holkenberg, but then they got rid of him and hired Claudia Sani to take over a month later. Claudia had composed the scores to 999, The Book of Eli, and a bunch of TV shows. The score to Supergirl is as generic as you can get. No big recognisable theme for Supergirl, your standard modern film score that is just there to fill in the gaps between the licensed music that needle drops during a punch-up. Film fans were seriously spoilt back in the 1980s, having maestros like John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith provide big epic scores that will stick with you for decades. What we get today is just junk, I'm afraid. I'm not fussed if you don't like the 1984 version of Supergirl, but damn, that score is incredible. And there are moments in this film where they could have dropped that theme tune, especially when she finally puts on the costume, and it would really amp up the action to make everything more exciting. The score by Claudia does come across as a rushed job, and to be honest sounds like free library music you can get from YouTube. Don't waste your time buying the score, a massive disappointment and a missed opportunity to do something really special. If you are a fan of Supergirl and have read the graphic novel, there are parts in the story where they do successfully adapt it very well, but they do leave out interesting sections of the original story. And Supergirl to me is different to how she is portrayed in the book, and the ending left me a bit mixed on some of their creative decisions. It was nice to see Superman pop up and chat with Supergirl, and he provides some fun little moments. I think their chemistry is really good. I hope they get some decent screen time together in the Superman sequel. This is by no means the worst superhero film. Some people online seem so desperate for it to fail and want to hate it before they even see it. But the film does have its problems, which they could have corrected. And there are clearly some last-minute decisions that I think has messed with the film, and those flaws do pop up now and again. If I was in control of this production, I would have got Luc Besson, who directed The Fifth Element, to direct it. If you want crazy, colourful cosmic stuff like the comic book has, he's the person for the job. If you decide to go see this, go in with low expectations, and you may get a lot of fun out of it, or you may walk out very disappointed. The mixed reviews out there indicate it's a bit of a Marmite movie that lacks the wow factor. And it does feel like the filmmakers have gone through the motions in making this film because it had to be made, not because they desperately wanted to do it because they had a passion and something to say about Supergirl, and the end result is a movie that is entertaining in parts, but is sadly nothing special. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click the like button and hit the bell to be notified of my latest reviews. Big thanks to my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain access to exclusive videos and take part in Q&As, follow the link below.